So we kick off our return to SG-1 with... If you own a cat, you've probably been woken up this way at least once in your life. Daniel explains that the people on Abydos were told to unbury the Stargate at this time so that Daniel could report back with Charest.
Daniel, you said you'd go back there in a year with Charest.
I know that, but at least I can tell her father that I haven't given up.
I've just spent a lot of time screwing around on things that really other people could have been doing, but I have hope I'll stumble into finding her again. Hammond's like, well, sounds like fun going back, but O'Neill and Carter are due in Washington. The Prez is giving them a medal, and he doesn't like when people don't show up for those sorts of things. So Daniel is just going there with Teal'c, because after all, he knows these people well. If you're here, you're family, like the Olive Garden without unlimited breadsticks. So he heads to Abydos with Teal'c.
Good father, I ask your forgiveness. I have returned without your daughter.
As is tradition, I have brought this man to be your new son. He still has the seal of authenticity on his forehead. Well, imagine Daniel's surprise when they arrive in a tent and discover Charest is waiting. And the even bigger surprise... Yep, that's going to be an awkward episode of Dr. Phil. Teal'c pulls a Zat gun on her, so her dad intervenes to spare her life. And Daniel has to try to calm everyone down so he can then sort out what the hell is going on. So he asks Charest, what the hell is going on? Why would this Goa'uld come here and infiltrate this village where the most advanced technology they have is the goat? So she explains that, yeah, there's a Goa'uld inside of her, but she has another little occupant too, obviously. Seems Apophis consummated the marriage, and to protect the child, the Goa'uld needs to sleep for the rest of the pregnancy. Kid can't develop property if she's up all hours of the night banging on the walls.
The Goa'uld that has stolen my soul is called Amonet.
No, never name it. Now you'll want to keep it. Apophis has arranged the birth of this child so that it can become his new host. Well, Daniel is disappointed, upset, and horrified and walks off. And speaking of disappointing, upsetting, and horrifying, Washington, D.C. O'Neill and Carter are on their way to the shindig in their honor, but on arrival, Carter is rather surprised at who's also there. Her father, General Jacob Carter. As an aside, if you ever wondered why it's a good idea to get more than 4 hours of sleep in a night, it took me 20 seconds to remember that Carter's father's last name was also Carter. Still, at least I didn't blurt out, wow, what a coincidence! So, that was something. Back on Abydos, things get around to the uncomfortable moment when Charest recognizes Teal'c. He assumes it was because he led the attack that took her captive, but she insists it wasn't just that she can recall how pissed Apophis is over him. Apparently Apophis is on the outs with the System Lords, thanks in part to Teal'c, so, that's good. Always nice to know your overtime is having an impact on your core business. This was Charest's second appearance in the show. The Forever and a Day is going to be the third and final one. So since this is one of the last times, I just want to take a moment to say that sometimes she really reminds me of like the older sister of Hawkgirl on Legends of Tomorrow. Daniel isn't sure what to make of this situation. Most marriage counselors can't help if your greatest enemy knocked up your wife while she was mind-controlled, and you're going to lose her yet again. That's one that they're going to need to huddle up like referees during a particularly controversial football decision. Teal'c says that they should bring her back to Stargate Command for debriefing since she recalls things that could be invaluable, but Daniel will hear nothing of it.
I will not put her through that, too. I'm sorry.
More sorry for yourself, it appears, than for Charest.
Oh, full contact on that one. Daniel's going straight into the ropes and onto the mat. Back in D.C., we find out that Jacob and Hammond used to serve together, but after making a rather rude remark, Jacob notes on how curious it is that she and O'Neill are getting such recognition for deep space radar telemetry. It does not sound like Omaha Beach stuff. I mean, it sounds more like... Nerd! Well, after the two of them are alone, Jacob says that this is great, but he's got a little surprise for her. He's got a line on getting her into NASA. which is the equivalent of telling Jesse Pinkman he has a good chance of going from making meth to assistant manager at Los Pollos Hermanos. But Carter's stuck here. She can't tell him that she doesn't want to go from traveling across the galaxy to being on the team that one day may get to use a Russian space toilet without it seeming odd, since she wanted to be in space her entire life. To add something to this mess, O'Neill heads out to a bar to get away from all this brass, only to have a journalist named Zellick show up. He knows about the Stargate, but O'Neill plays dumb. He has that down to a science after all. Zellick recorded him making a remark to Carter about crossing the galaxy. But now, to emphasize that O'Neill only plays dumb, he says that a galaxy is a very big American transport plane, which it is. It's the C-5. The Stargate did come up, but after all that is just a name. It doesn't mean anything. It's not saying what the U.S. military is getting up to. Operation Desert Storm does not mean the United States controls the weather. Back on Abydos, Daniel tells Sha're he's only mad at what was done to her, not mad at her. Otherwise, that'd be kind of a dick move. They explain the idea. Come back to the SGC, spend time together, answer questions, and after the birth, when the Gould takes over, she'll be locked up until they can figure out a way to help her. Pops is worried that Apophis will wipe out the village when he comes back, though.
Tell them an enemy of Apophis came and stole Sha're and the child away.
And it will be the truth, yes? Go with them.
Well, I guess he's convinced. Sha're finally agrees as well, except that just when they're going to leave, a pyramid ship arrives. After all, the gate has been buried. They can't just assume that it isn't. It's not fun to fly at the speed of light into a rock. But this wakes up the Gould, and that wakes up the baby, so the Gould goes back to bed, meaning 6 more weeks of winter, I think. With her in labor and the arrival of the rings to teleport Jaffa down, Teal'c says that would be a good time to run away.